Hello, my name is Maya.
And my name is Amelie.
As we all know, there are plenty of different figures of speech in literary conventions, and today we're here to teach you all about sarcasm and irony.
First off, most of you probably know these two concepts, but we're here to tell you a little definition of them. When are we allowed to use them? How can we use them? Some examples, and to finish, some tips and tricks.
Let's start with the similarities and differences. Sarcasm and irony are two concepts that we use to mock someone or something by doing or saying the opposite. Some might use those for humor, and some might just use them in a way to share a message.
That's a great way to explain it, but how can we tell the difference between the two of them?
Verbal irony is a figure of speech that communicates the opposite of what is said, while sarcasm is a figure of speech that is directed at a person with the intent to criticize.
Another way to understand this is that sarcasm is used verbally. However, irony is an action. Now, let's be a little more specific. What exactly is the definition of sarcasm?
Sarcasm is an ironic or satirical remark tempered by humor. Most of the time, people use it to say the opposite of what's true to make someone look or feel foolish. It is directed at a person to mock them.
On the other hand, irony is used whenever a person says something or does something that departs from what they expect them to do or say. Irony is a situation in which actions have an effect that is opposite from what was intended, so that the outcome is contrary to what was expected. In other words, it illustrates a meaning opposite to the words written. There are three types of irony, known as verbal irony, situational irony, and dramatic irony.
Verbal irony is when you want to express something using speech that then makes it the opposite of what they mean.
The next type that is often used as a type of irony is situational irony. You use this type when a situation does not have the outcome that was expected in the first place.
The final main type of irony that we see is dramatic irony. This type of irony is created when the reader knows something important that the characters of the story being read do not know. Therefore, you know what others don't. Now, let's go a little bit more in detail. How can we use them?
Sarcasm and irony are pretty easy to use if you use them properly. A way to tell you're using them is facial expression. These expressions can be used while you're demonstrating these figures of speech in person. An example of facial expression that demonstrates sarcasm is the sarcastic smile. The smile suggests a positive emotion, but the eyes often give it away. The smile can demonstrate the conflicting emotions of amusement and dislike. If you want to apply irony in a text, the author tends to create an ironic situation to then build a suspenseful plot with an unexpected end.
For sarcasm, it's all in the tone of your voice. For an example, watch the difference when I say these two sentences. Wow, this shirt is so pretty. Wow, this shirt is so pretty. Notice how when you put a whole different tone on certain words, it changes the whole perspective of the sentence?
Exactly. For irony, since it's an action, you can use it whenever someone says something not to do, and you pretend to do it anyways. In other words, you can do an action that represents the opposite of the words written. Irony can be used with facial expressions just like sarcasm. But make sure to always take the opposite of what you're being told. For example, Sophia tells Maya not to take a bite off her Subway, but Maya pretends to do it anyways.
Now we'll mention a few examples of both literary devices from different perspectives. First of all, in Romeo and Juliet, we experience a big moment of situational irony. Juliet's mom, Lady Capulet, goes to wake her daughter Juliet for the forced wedding between her and suitor Paris, but finds Juliet dead in her eyes. This is situational irony at its finest because we have an outcome that Lady Capulet never expected.
Another example from this famous play is when the audience knows the real reason why Juliet is crying. Romeo has vanished. Romeo returns to Verona. He finds Juliet drugged in a death-like sleep. He assumes she is dead and he kills himself. This is an example of dramatic irony because the reader knows that Juliet isn't officially dead, but Romeo didn't get the hint.
Another example of dramatic irony is when Romeo says that he has a bad feeling about going to the party, and he says that he fears for his own life. It's an example of dramatic irony because the reader knows that Romeo will die during the play.
We can also hear examples of sarcasm throughout Disney movies. In the Disney original movie named Tangled, we see Mother Gothel and Rapunzel together in front of a mirror. She then proceeds to say, "Look in the mirror. I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look! You're here too." This is a sarcastic remark said by Gothel in front of Rapunzel while they were looking at each other in the mirror.
The next example of sarcasm comes from a Disney original movie named Sleeping Beauty. We see two ladies talking about a dress. The lady trying it on says, "It looks awful." The other lady then replies with, "That's because it's on you, dear." This is a sarcastic remark made for the lady trying on the dress to feel foolish.
The last example of sarcasm seen in a Disney movie that we will mention is from the Disney original movie named The Emperor's New Groove. In this scene, we see Cusco talking to a woman. He says, "Let me guess, you have a great personality," he says, that meaning her looks aren't that great and that her personality should be quite better. It's a remark made for the woman to feel and look foolish.
Finally, we will talk about the tips and tricks that help you easily distinguish each literary device. First of all, if you're trying to find out if you have verbal irony, look at the purpose of the reader. If they properly say the opposite of what they think or say, it is automatically verbal irony.
For situational irony, a tip to distinguish it and not mix it with other types of irony is to really see the outcome and expectations of the characters are thwarted. If the outcome is expected, situational irony is not being used.
When using dramatic irony, a tip to make sure it is in your text or in another's work of literature is to look at how the sentence is written. If you see that the author made sure that only you know about the situation but not the characters, it is dramatic irony.
Finally, a tip to find out if sarcasm is used is to look for facial expressions, the tone of your voice as well, and the knowledge of the person expressing sarcasm. If none of these are applied appropriately for sarcasm, then it is not a literary device used.
This concludes our presentation about sarcasm and irony.
We are hoping our presentation will help you use these two concepts properly for future projects. Thanks for listening!